What's up, everybody? Tyson Roush. Let's talk Jets. Hope everybody's having an excellent week. The weather in New Jersey is nice, 80s and sunny. I think tomorrow's going to be 90. So we're finally getting that summer feel. Mandatory minicamp is in progress. Day 2 is today. I think the best part of all these sessions is you get to hear from the coordinators and all the players too. So you're getting their insight of how they feel this is going, how the change is going, the new culture, the new standards. Coach Glenn, from the day he took this job, has been talking about competition. You love what you hear about how he's conducting practices where they're not wasting reps, where they're doing situational awareness, game awareness, drive the field, no 7-on-7s, do 11-on-11s. And when you have a young, impressionable team, that's the finest way. This is how you build it. You're learning, back to basics, back to fundamentals, grow your team and develop, and then you enhance it as you go along. I remember last year when Saleh took the referees out of practice, it drove me crazy because if you're not getting called for penalties in practice, when it happens in the game, you're surprised. If it's happening in practice, it'll happen in the game. You make your adjustments then. So I like early on Glenn's approach. Again, I know it's only June 11th, but these are things you're trying to find building blocks or red flags. And right now you're seeing a lot of good things. In terms of competition, there's some really interesting things that are happening with this team that you have to keep an eye on going into training camp. First and foremost is, Aaron Glenn talked about Termaine Johnson, who's on schedule, will probably start training camp on PUP. No surprise there, but he should be ready for week 1, which is fine. But the one thing is, you don't want to rush him back. You don't want to force him into games. You don't want to give him 40 snaps a game if he's not ready. You want to bring him in slowly, have him peak mid-season, and be at his strength at the end of the season. So if that's the case, you got to figure out who's behind him. If you're going to start him out slowly, who's playing behind him? Who's your depth guy behind Will McDonald? How are you going to generate this pass rush as your defensive front is supposed to be the strength of your defense? So a lot of, is it Rashad Weaver? Do they look at maybe signing a free agent? Where a part of me thinks that they use OTAs and mandatory minicamp to start assessing what they have on this roster, and then they can start tinkering now or once training camp starts. So you look at defensive tackle. The Jets struggle to stop the run. Do they have that guy on this roster that can do it? Who are they counting on to do that? Another position. More important, even safety position. Tony Adams talked today about the safety position where he used to be the hunter, now he's the hunted. A lot of competition there. You have Malachi Moore, you have Andre Cisco. So it's a lot, this whole practice where there's not a lot of guys walking on the field right now saying, my spot is secure, which is a good thing. Like this regime inherited all you guys. They don't know who you are, what you do. And they've been saying openly, everybody has a clean slate. What you did last year doesn't matter. What you did 3 years ago doesn't matter. We want to see what you're doing in this camp in Florham Park. So safety position. In other words, could a young guy steal a job? You love A.Z. Thomas, maybe pressing Brandon Stevens. So defensively, really interesting parts. I think a lot of us have a lot of confidence with Steve Wilks, defensive coordinator, experienced guy, former head coach, and Aaron Glenn, where that's his prowess. Offensively, a lot of interesting scenarios too, where Breece Hall met the media today, and I love the way he handled it. He talked about, I didn't play good last year. I have to earn my respect in my coaching staff and my teammates this year. I got to earn my contracts. I didn't earn it last year. He's all about hard work, team first. And then he talked about, the Jets have a 3 running back committee with Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. He's like, you know what? I've got to show everybody I'm the guy that deserves the ball 25 times a game. So you love that. There were some concerns. Would he be discouraged if the team wasn't anointing him as the premier guy on the team? So now that competition mantra has rolled off to Breece Hall, which will definitely foster more in that locker room, in that position group, and on offense. Wide receiver, same thing. We're behind Garrett Wilson, who, let me say this, you got to love hearing that Tanner Engstrand is literally focusing in on Garrett Wilson, saying, we are going to feature this guy in our offense. We will find ways creatively to get him the football and let him flourish. That does 2 things. It maximizes his productivity and keeps him very happy, makes him want to stay here, which is important as well. So Garrett being that, all level player is great, but then who is after him? Then you're trying to find things that are Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard. Right now, Malachi Corley's in a tough spot. Barely played last year, a lot of disappointment last year, and now he's hurt this year, missing a lot of time. And you heard Tanner Engstrand say, listen, it's up to him, man. He's got to get all these mental reps back. He's got to get back all this time he's missing because everybody else is ahead of him. You have Aaron Smith, but that wide receiver group kind of reminds me of like the defensive end where it's like, okay, you're assessing what you have now. You may be forced to make a move if you want a legitimate number 2 pass catcher that Justin Fields can rely on. Tight end group, again, Mason Taylor, Jeremy Ruckert, 2 guys completely. Ruckert, obviously the veteran guy, unproven. Stone Smart, unproven. You have a tight end group where it's like, Rucker talked about it. Like, I've got to earn my spot by blocking better, catching better, better being a better teammate, be a better route runner. So again, you like what you hear, but it's like there's a lot of areas you look at yet on offense where you have, I'm not saying concerns, but you have to keep an eye on it. This is the center position where Joe Tippmann and Myers, are they competing for a starting spot there? Tanner Engstrand gave him a lot of compliments today, but didn't commit to anything. But you got to see how this all plays out, and you want to see at some point in training camp do they iron it out and say this is our starting group. Say by the second preseason game they practice together and they move on. Special teams, who's going to be the returners? Who's going to be the kicker? Who's going to be the punter? There are so many moving parts of this team, but I think you have an environment here where everybody's competing for the same thing. And the cool thing about Aaron Glenn is there's no gray area. He's literally, every time you hear from a player, Aaron Glenn called them or talked to them and told them exactly what he wants from them. Like, this is exactly what I wanted to see you do. If you do this, you'll play. If you don't do this, you're not going to play. So you have all these position groups and all these players earning their spots, earning their playing time. It could be a really fun environment, especially if this coaching staff stays consistent. So we'll see what happens. Justin Fields met the media. You don't get a lot out of him. Very even-keeled, very soft-spoken. The players seem to love him. They praise his work ethic. And he's going to probably get together with his teammates, throughout this downtime, in June and July, meet up with the receivers and running backs and tight ends, which is great. We've had that with Sanchez and Zach Wilson and everybody else, but at least he's trying to do the right things to keep this team, on the pace, on the same pace going to and the training camp. And the most important thing is to keeping everybody healthy, man. That's the most important thing is you want to see improvement. You want to see practices. You want to see this team stay healthy throughout this entire process and get to camp that way. So that's it. Kind of long-winded. I'll talk to you later.